Hey guys, what's going on? So we are here on the Tuesday market breakdown, currently looking at the DXY. We have some pretty good movement here. It seems like we did actually start to reject from the area of interest. I'm seeing across the board, we are getting these very significant near misses. Now, not all of them are as large as this one, and I think this is definitely something that is a good reminder that this isn't really much of a near miss in a sense. I mean, it is a near miss, yes, but with a gap like that, it can pretty much move. I think this is more of a significant near miss when you have, to this high here, and let's say we were scooping back up and we didn't quite fill it. To me, that's more for near miss. This little gap here, where it's over quite a large sum of pips, but even so, yeah, the DXY seems to be declining ever so slightly, which we can see some bullish movement on the Euro USD, which we'll go into after. So, there's still two ways. I am still looking at this to potentially fill this and go further. However, just keeping it very simple for now. We just have to understand that in the higher time frame, we're still down here. We can still create continuation in terms to go to the downside. This could be its own pattern in itself, where we're looking at something like this, and price can just kind of make its one more push low. So there's a few variations of what I'm actually looking at, but all in all, I'm just keeping it very simple and just going to be waiting to see how price reacts to this area. And then if it starts to sell, then we could probably see something quite similar on a lot of the US related pairs. So the DXY, still anticipating the long, but for now, we just have to operate and just see how this maneuvers. Moving on to the watch list, we have Euro Aussie. I think Euro Aussie is actually one of the most interesting ones at the moment as well, because what I've seen here is we had the near miss, we pushed, we created this flag, which is a lot more clear on the 15, but we had the push down, we had the flag, and we had a continuation of a push, but we didn't quite tap into anything significant with this. And then we just started to retrace back up. Is this now becoming something of a larger nature where this just becomes one larger flag and continues? If so, it's not really the sort of flag I'm going to be looking for, because in terms of that push, this flag is somewhat very large for this continuation to the downside. It could, yes, absolutely be enough, but it's not the sort of flag that I'm going to be looking to entertain, especially with this near miss, and on the higher picture, another near miss up here. I'm still looking for that long position. So there was a very nice position in there, which I was able to capture. If we look at it over here, it was a reduced risk entry because it wasn't very easy to see. Refined on the 15-minute, looked at it on the 5-minute, but took no action at all. If I was to take an AFT entry here, the AFT entry would have been in this zone here, which was quite interesting in itself. Definitely a 4% on the table there. Probably would have locked out with roughly around about 3%. I was quite happy with my original position. And yeah, so depending if you stop cropped it or not, probably you wouldn't, but anyway, roughly around about 3% there, and then you probably wouldn't have locked it out right there. You'll probably be out somewhere around about here. So 1.43 on the table. But then looking back on things, how I took my position, I'm quite happy with it. I don't think there's any other way I would have taken it personally. Was able to take out 1.56, which essentially was more than the AFT position in itself. The reason for manual close there was I was just bringing my account back to where it was. It has backfired on me in the past when I have done things like that, but in this case scenario, just because it's basically my first week back to trading after some time of taking it off, I didn't want to be sitting in drawdown. So it doesn't make a difference if you're in drawdown or you're up on your account. The bonus of being up is that you can take some additional risk trades. But um, yeah, in this sense, this trade is beyond very nice. We have a simple 1, 2, 3. We had a push from an impulse continuation followed by it, but we just didn't get any commitment here. Um, and yeah, it's just one of those ones now where if we did get some more commitment, it would have been very nice. It was forming to become quite nice. It just didn't play out, unfortunately. So yeah, that's basically the trade that I took there. And right now, we're kind of seeing price kind of creating something larger here. I'm more than happy to leave it alone and not touch it. So That's basically Euro Aussie for me. Um, and it just to kind of re-clarify, I am looking for EA to come fill this gap at some point. It doesn't have to fill it now. You know, looking back on it, there's more than enough for it to continue with its sell, but really and truly, that there is an obvious near gap there. So, you know, um, it just would be very interesting to see how this forms and what happens next. But it does look like we're creating a continuation pattern to the downside, potentially a head and shoulders. So keep that in mind if you are looking at EA. The next one I'm looking at is New Zealand US dollar. I think with New Zealand US dollar, it's got a lot of potential as well. It's just moving very sharp at the moment, which isn't the sort of typical um, nature that I like to trade. However, this particular pair, you have to understand that we do get these sharp movements. You know, you will see it from time to time again. You know, we get a push downs usually are quite sharp, but we do get these sharp pullback ups. But they're usually after corrective squeezes. So, you know, bear in mind with this pair, they can move very sharp, but then it can correct for some time before we get another sharp move. So it's now something that I'm contemplating if it was worth me putting it on watch in the first place, because this could just take some time to correct, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm looking for this to make its second top, come back down, retest this, take a counter trend buy for a sell, and see how that goes. Bear in mind there was a near miss there, not as significant as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, because it's still very close, but it is a near miss all in all. So it would be no surprise if we did eventually gravitate and come back up here, but it would be no surprise if we did get down here before we came back up there. So that's something that I would keep in mind as well for New Zealand US dollar. But I think at the moment for New Zealand US dollar, I am looking for that prime position down here. This would just be an extra position that I'd be able to capitalize on to the downside before I go long. So that's basically how I'm looking to take New Zealand US dollar. Bear in mind, I'm not going to be putting any of those on watch. If I highlight it in red, then it would be on today's watch. But to be honest, there's nothing that really jumps out to me on these particular pairs. I think GBP USD is actually one of the nicer ones. Um, will it be ready today? I'm not quite sure as well. So what I was looking at over here was for price to push up, push back down, create a flag, and then for us to go to the downside. But unfortunately, we didn't quite get that. What happened was price came up, started creating some corrective price action, and just kind of dripped off. And I think this was due to some news. We did have a lot of news coming out today as well, so bear that in mind as well. So if we look at previous news, yeah, so there we go. So it just created volatility in the market, but this was the unemployment rates and yeah, so mostly the unemployment rates took effect here and just dropped off. I was looking for that to actually. I mean, this is the thing with speculation. You know, you think it's gonna work in your favor sometimes, and it doesn't. So that's one of the reasons why you don't want to trade the news, but you have to always be somewhat aware of it because it can take levels of impact on your charts. So all in all, we can see that price is now pushing back up aggressively to fill that gap. This was just volatility in the market due to some news, and now we're making our way back up. Could we have got involved in that? Probably not, to be honest. And knowing that you have news like that coming out, sometimes it's worth staying out of the market or not FOMOing, getting in too early and stuff, because at the end of the day, you can just, it can really mess you up. Also, if you are in a long position, you should also be aware of this stuff because, it could stop you from taking a bad loss. For example, if your entry was down here and you put your stop loss in this region here, that's completely fine in my opinion. But if you had your stop loss like down here to be extra protection and you weren't aware of news and then something did happen, do you really want to give back all of that profit? So that's something that I would also be aware of. But overall, yeah, GBP USD probably not one I'm going to have on watch today. It could be beneficial to just keep it on watch though, because we'll probably make it up to here, and then when we get there, we can evaluate for the short position. However, I'm not looking for this short position just yet. I don't think. I think more so, I need some time to let this develop. I mean, it's looking a bit too messy for me at this moment in time. It could scoop up here. We get a two touch. This could be more than enough for this sort of flag, but ideally, if it came back down here and then went up here, then I would be inclined to look for the short. But at the moment, we haven't even filled the bottom. So yeah, I'm not going to put that on watch personally, but two touch is definitely a possibility for those who do have it on watch. Besides the point, the high time frame is looking phenomenal, and I think there's going to be very, very, very good price action on this. So keep this on close watch as well, because I think when it shapes up, it's going to be very nice. Last but not least of the GBP pairs is GBP CAD. I haven't really got much to say for this, man. It's phenomenal. I mean, it's just one of them ones where I guess I was looking for too much. I wanted to see price break above and come back down. Was monitoring it, saw price come up here, and then just kind of sell off. It sold off pretty quickly, to be honest. And then next thing I know, looking at it on hourly, I saw the green candle over here. I was like, okay, it needs a bit of time. Um, and then I thought potentially it would just kind of make its way up. Didn't quite get there. Had my alert set, as you see, wasn't even triggered. Um, and then yeah, that was it. It just kind of just didn't get there and then sold off. And it was just a shame because I saw this as a small near miss and then that near miss. Then I kind of realized, is it really that relevant? And then we did get the sell. And then at this point, I just contemplated the short. I just think it wasn't worth it. Personally, I wouldn't have really wanted to take this sort of short because there's the possibility you can just retrace, actually just take all those out and go. And this was what, not even a percentage. I would have been running a percentage now. So all in all, it's looking good, very good. Would I take a reduced risk entry is also another question. I don't really think so, to be honest. I think for the risk reward on this, um, nah, not really for me, to be honest. I'll be very honest with you. It's a good trade though there. Literally ready right now as I speak. You could take this, you could probably make it as tight as possible. If I was to take this entry, I'd probably be putting it in here, 45 pips, and then take it for a 6% position. But at this moment in time, I'm just not too sure about it. There's not enough. I think I'm looking for a bit more, and I'm happy to accept that. I'm happy to accept that I'm looking for more because it doesn't really tick all the boxes for me, and I wouldn't want to put capital at risk on this particular trade to only be taken out to realize, well, my original plan was the one that was the best one. So if it does happen to come all the way back up here, then I'll be sharp and ready. If not, it is what it is. The next one is Euro USD. Oh, sorry, actually, just before I go on to that, something that is very good to note is sometimes when we have these larger flags, we tend to get something smaller over here. So maybe it kind of just pops out and then we get something like this and then it shoots off. So that is something that I'll definitely stay sharp for. So I think for that reason, I'll definitely keep this one on watch because I've seen that time and time again where we get a decent flag and then it's kind of missed and then we get another flag over here where it's presenting another opportunity before we get a big sell-off, and then next thing you know, price is down there and you're thinking, oh, maybe I could have taken it. And I've seen that many times. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's always good to be sharp and realize that you've not always missed your position. Next one's Euro USD. Euro USD is looking pretty good as well. I think it's just like the DXY. DXY is kind of having that bit of a decline at the moment. If this also has that bullish momentum, I'm wondering if it will be enough for it to push up. Looking back on the DXY, we can see that, it is kind of selling off, but it's just one of them ones where not quite sure at the moment what's actually going on with it. Um, there's a few possibilities, but at the moment, there's no clear structure for me. I don't think I want to be dabbling with this much because I still think there's some shorting momentum inside the Euro USD for sure. We're not coming off anywhere significant. Nothing has really changed. We're just kind of consolidating. So, in my opinion, it's one to stay out of right now. But when it's ready, it's going to be ready. Just need some sort of structure to um, support my trade. Euro yen. So we're still looking at this head and shoulders on Euro yen. We're looking at this as the retest. I think currently with the retest, it's kind of just expanded a little bit higher than I'd expect. At the moment, still just want to keep it very simple. Um, just go back to the daily for a second and we can see that we've tapped into the override. There's still the possibility for the 1, 2, 3. Now, This is something that I've just been contemplating is if price decline doesn't decide to go down, it just kind of just hovers, we could just scoop and make our way back up here, and then we kind of just do this little scoop that becomes our three touch, and then we just sell off. That is also a absolute possibility, or we come to the override and go from there. um, at the moment we're still below this area, which is quite good. We haven't quite given a signal yet, but it does look like we are coming back up to the highs for some reason. If I take a pick over here, you can see that we've retraced off this low, and we've pushed up quite bullish, to be honest. If we just drill onto the 1 hour, it does look like we are creating this flag at the moment. Now, this is something that I was contemplating for a position. However, looking on it, I don't want to be going against this particular trend at this moment in time, just because of the confluences in favor for the short. I will just be a bit more patient to see how this works out. But looking at it, I think the short position would be very, very nice. Just need to wait it out and see how it forms. Does this create something a little bit larger before we go? We'll have to wait and see. So EJ is one I'm going to leave out, because looking at CJ and UJ, there's still that ball momentum in there that we're waiting for. So that could give it that additional push, which gives it that thesis of it coming all the way back up here, testing potentially this override, third touch, whatever it is, and then we shoot off. So for that reason, once again, I'm not going to be putting that one on watch. I'm just going to be sitting on the sidelines, let it do its thing, come back to it later. Now, moving on to the wildcards, we have EuroCAD. I'll tell you something about EuroCAD. EuroCAD is actually looking pretty nice, to be honest. Now, we're hovering just below these lows. However, we've come down, and now we're creating something a little bit more corrective in form of continuation. We haven't actually tapped into any of these other closer lows yet. So this for me is kind of a good signal that the market is still hovering in this area to create some more money to go low. So just give it some time. There's always the possibility that this is a middle section for a larger structure. Not too bothered about it at all, actually, at this point. If we can come back up here, that's even better. And I'm happy to wait for something like that, because this will then present me with an even better trade for the short. And I'll be more than happy to get into that position, because I think that will build up enough money to potentially smash through all of this. But even so, in terms of a risk reward, if we're looking at it somewhere around about this region, and we take a flag, call it around about 14 pip stop loss, even to that low, you're looking at around about 12%. 12% to this low, and then onwards and upwards, honestly. So that's EuroCAD. I mean, for now, I'm going to leave it alone as well. There isn't really much there. And this is just one of those things where you might put on a watch list that looks phenomenal on the weekend. And then you come back the week, and then you're thinking, why did I pick some of these pairs? But that's something that as well we all have to go through and realize that you're not always going to have very, very nice pairs on watch. Sometimes they just turn out to be completely shite. But it is what it is, and we just deal with that. Um, yeah, this one is also very corrective. I have a good intuition that we are going to push back up at some point, and then we're going to go for the short. So I am really waiting for that to happen. Do we correct all the way to this low before we get there? Who knows? But I think it'll be a very good play. This is very corrective at this point in time, which I do like a lot. Just need to wait it out. I want to see that very strong impulsive move down, but at this moment in time, it's not ready. So just going to give it some time to materialize. And this is what I was talking about, the yen pair. So CAD yen, we can see that we are hovering over here at the moment. We're creating more liquidity until we get one more push up, and then we sell off. We might as well tap into this override at this point, because this flag, well, it's massive at that point. For it to go all the way up here, I think looking at that in pip size, it's a 200 pip movement. It would have to go really bullish in order for it to sell off, and it's not really something that I think is really going to go down. I think 125 more likely. We can push up, get around about these areas, and then look for a sell off. Very, very possible. Keeping my eye on that for sure. I don't think we're ready, but also I've seen this time and time again that sometimes we don't even get to this point. We actually get to the point just before it. and we sell off from here. So I would keep that very, very close in mind, that that's also a possibility as well. But knowing myself, I'm going to keep it nice and black and white, and I'm just going to wait for this point here just because we're so close apart. And USD yen, I think something quite similar with this. We had a nice little flag push up, we pushed back down, similar to what we saw on EA, and now we're just kind of correcting. There isn't no significant area where I can see a shorting opportunity at this point. I think we're still closing up to this trend line here. And I think, like I said, with CAD Yen, there's the possibility that we can just shoot up. This is also a 2200 odd position. So how we get there would be phenomenal. If we see that, that would be incredible. And let's just size up EJ. Yeah, EJ is a bit crazy. 400 pips to that high. Um, Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see, but we might see some phenomenal bullish movement on this. Right now, we're looking at impulse correction continuation to the upside. So I think looking for a long position could actually be very, very strategic and smart, especially at the potential for what's actually happening in here. I would have a close look at that. Do you know what? It's a bit, I don't know how to explain it, but how would you get involved? I think I would look for that two touch, wait for the push up and a flag, and then go with it. So keep it very simple. If we get this, looking for it to come down, tap into this area, may even retest this area here. So let's just call it a retest down there, pushes back up into the flag, then creates a flag, and then we go. And that's where you want to be entering the market, in my opinion. This is the, call it the key zone right now. If we get an entry over there, that would be great. That's exactly what I'll be looking for. And then if you do get something like this where it turns into an expanding, so be it. From here to around about this area, you have more than enough to manage. And if you look at a risk reward, let's say you take a reduced risk for any particular reason, a risk entry would be better, but let's say you take a reduced risk entry, it could be around about 12 pips. You'd already be running around about to this high 4.5%. So at that point, you have to ask yourself, would you leave 4.5% on the table? No, most probably you would have locked in at least 2%, probably 3% when you get to this high. So then if it does come back, well, you still made 3% before it even made its way back down. So that's basically it for my watch list and wildcards. I know it hasn't been that exciting this week. Perhaps maybe it's just because I've been out of sync, but even so, there's still a lot of opportunity in the market at the moment. And I think, times like this where nothing looks like it's shaping up is probably the time where you have to be the most sharpest, because I've seen it many times where all of a sudden everything shapes up and then you have so many pairs on watch and you're thinking, how was I not prepared for this? Everything looked like it wasn't ready. Now all of a sudden there's flags everywhere. So hope there was some good takeaways from this video. And yeah, if you have any questions, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, drop a comment below, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you. Thanks for watching and catch you in the next video.